I am Linda van Tilburg for National Security News. The Nigerian authorities have recently decided to revoke the operating license of the French nuclear fuel producer Orano at one of the world's largest uranium mines in the country. Well, this decision follows the expulsion of the French military and the withdrawal of US troops from the country. Well, to delve into the geopolitical implications and other developments in Niger and the Sahel region of Africa, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Alianka Ajala from the University of Leeds Beckett in the United Kingdom, and he's also associated with the University of Cape Town. Dr. Ajala, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So can we delve into the reasons behind this decision to not renew the French producers and nuclear companies' license? So what do you think happened there?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Before we talk about the reason for revoking the license, I think we should have a bit of context on the company. So Orano is one of the largest producers of uranium in the world, and they have a major stake in Niger. Currently, they have 3 licenses. They operate at 3 sites, but I think only one is active at the moment. They've been in Niger since 1971, and they have worked with various Nigerian governments, both military and civilian governments in the country. So this particular field in Moraran, the license was granted in 2009. And Orano began operation there in 2012. So they started working there in 2012. So they own 66.5% stake at the mine, of the mine, 66% stake of the mine, and then the state uranium company called Sopanin owns the remaining 33% stake in the mine. So when they started in 2012, the license was granted in 2009, and they started operation in 2012. And but 2015, when the Fukushima disaster happened in 2011, and then around 2015, they altered operation at the site. So they've not operated at that site since 2015. And when earlier this year, the Nigerian government gave them an ultimatum that they have to resume operation there on the 19th of June, 2024, if they want to keep the license. So on the reports from Orano stated that they've resumed operation since the 4th of June, but the Nigerian government are not satisfied with the current state of operation. They argue that they've not resumed operation, that the only thing they did was just to bring in a couple of engineers, and they have not really started operation. So the reason for this, for the cancellation of this license, is the fact that they've given them enough ultimatum to start operation at the field, at the mine, but Orano have not been able to start operation. But apart from that, there have been some underlying issues since the coup in Niger last year. So since the coup last year, as we know, relationship between Niger and France has been significantly negatively impacted since the coup last year. In fact, Orano suspended operation at one of their mines until January this year. So these are some of the things that have been happening in terms of the relationship between Orano and the Nigerian government, and also the relationship between France and Niger. So the relationship soured after the coup last year, and there have been a lot of issues, including the French military having been told to move to leave the country last year. So all of this is a combination of the sad relationship between both countries.
Well, there's also a souring with the West in general, isn't there? Because when the Americans left, I mean, it was barely a year ago where the Americans or Washington was still describing Niger as a great partner of the West. But that has changed overnight, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't just the US, even Europe regarded Niger as a darling. It was called a darling of the West because Niger was it was a democracy that was growing. So a couple of years ago, they had the first democratic transition in the history of the country. So the former president was the first president to President Yusufu was the first president to complete 2 terms as president and also hand over to another democratically elected government. And the relationship has been strengthened. There have been lots of bilateral and multilateral agreements on issues regarding to trade, migration, and also combating terrorism in West Africa and the Sahel. But everything changed after the coup last year. And we've seen Niger now looking outside of the box, if I may say, and trying to build relationships with countries like Russia, Iran, Turkey, and some other countries that they were not as close to before when they had the cordial relationship with Western countries.
Yes, journalists on the ground from Al Jazeera have reported that they've seen Russian companies moving into it. So can we expect perhaps that a Russian company might start mining where the French used to?
Yes, they might. We still don't know if they have been able to do that right now because as of 2022, Niger had 31, there were 31 prospecting permits and 11 mining licenses issued to different countries, some US countries, UK countries, even an Australian countries, not just French countries have mining licenses in the country. So there were 11 mining licenses as of 2022. But when the military leaders, when they took over power last year, early this year, they stated that they will be reviewing these licenses. And some of these licenses are expiring as well. So some of them have like a 10-year lease agreement, some of them 20 years lease agreement. So they are at the moment also reviewing these licenses. So the relationship is changing. What I'm hearing is that some Chinese companies are taking over some of these mines in northern Niger. So because China has been mining there previously, there have not been any news of Russian companies mining in Niger. I don't think there is any at the moment. I know there are 1 or 2 Chinese companies, but yes, there are speculations that some of these mines might be either handed over to the Chinese or handed over to new Russian companies.
Well, that's particularly interesting for uranium because uranium is, the mineral that is needed in so much of the new technology. So, what is the risk for the West and for Washington if these mines? Because isn't it the largest mine in the world for uranium, one of the largest producer or the largest producer? So, what impact could that have on the supply of uranium?
Yeah, it is concerning. As you rightly said, this particular mine in Orano is one of the largest. As one of the largest uranium deposits in the world, is about 200,000 tons of uranium in that mine alone. The biggest concern at the moment is Iran. There have been rumors that Iran is actively seeking to get mining licenses in the country, in Niger, so that they can use it to enrich their nuclear facilities in Iran. So this is the biggest concern to the West, especially to the US, because at the moment, because of the partnership and relationship Niger had with the other allies, they are able to monitor who gets what and where the uranium are being sold to. So, for instance, in 2022, the EU got about 25% of their uranium from Niger in 2022. So, the risk the risk now is who will be, what companies will be mining uranium, what will they do with it, who will they sell it to, will it get into the hand of non-state actors, will it be an opportunity for Iran to use the uranium from Niger to enrich their facility back in Iran. And it's interesting to also state at the moment that uranium mined in Niger is one of the finest in the world in terms of the quality. So it's one of the highest grade, has one of the highest grade quality in the world. So it is well sought after by many countries for different purposes. So Western countries are they are afraid, or they are concerned, not afraid, they are concerned about the situation and what the uranium will be used for, especially when it's looked at from the perspective of Iran.
Well, this is a new perspective because we're used to Russian influence and Chinese influence in Africa that seems to be growing. Iran, is that a new player in Africa?
Yes, they are. It's not. There's something we call, as you know, the scramble for the soul of Africa. So Africa has 30% of all the natural resources deposits in the world. So a lot of countries are interested in Africa because of the natural resources, which in most cases do not really benefit African countries because they don't have a strong bargaining power when it comes to the prices of these natural resources. And this is one of the problems Niger had with France. Even during the time of democracy in Niger, they've been talking about an upward review of the price of uranium in the country. So going back to the question on Iran, just like Russia, Iran is also trying to build allies outside of the West. And many of these countries see African countries as emerging economically, emerging in terms of their regional stance. So Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, these are strong countries on the continent that are also trying to look outside of the West for development. In many countries, I do a lot of research in West Africa and the Sahel. And one thing that many people tell us when we're gathering data and interviewing people is that, well, we've been allies with the US, with France, with these countries for a long time. What have they done for us? And despite the fact that the US, France, UK, and Europe provide a lot in military assistance, a lot of people on ground do not see these things. The things they see are the maternity centers built by China, which are boldly written on, donated by China. So these kind of things raise questions at the grassroots level. During the protest in support of the military last year, there was a chart that was circulating during the protest, and it listed everything China has done for Africa. And then they were asking, what has the US done? What are the Western partners, what have they done? So most of the support from the Western allies go to military support, economic support, budget support. And these are significant support that goes on to this country, especially Niger, Burkina Faso, and the other countries. But the common man on the street, they don't see these things. The only thing they see is 45 street lights, solar street lights donated by China, 5 medical centers donated by China. So Iran is also trying to do the same thing, trying to build allies outside of the West, trying to entrench their relationship. And they have an eye on Niger because of the uranium. So it's a totally different dynamics that we did not even see this time last year.
So is Iran interested in other countries, or is it particular Niger because of the uranium?
I think they are interested in other countries in the Sahel. So they're also interested in Burkina Faso, in Mali, but the most significant one is Niger. Recently, earlier this year, the foreign minister for Niger visited Tehran, and also some high-ranking officials from Iran have also visited Niger. So both countries are trying to, again with Turkey as well, they're also trying to build relationship with Turkey as well. So I think the military junta, they are trying to look at countries that be of significant benefit to them. And with Iran, it's not just for the uranium, it's also for weapons. They are looking at countries that could sell weapons to them without any issue with human rights. And this is one thing that has been causing a rift between countries in Africa and their Western allies. There is always a clause, a human rights clause when it comes to the sales of weapons. And I said it in one of the interviews I did earlier this year. When you look at the example of Nigeria, before 2015, Nigeria never bought any weapon from Russia, not a single bullet from Russia, since Nigeria returned to democracy in 1999. But in 2015, thereabouts, Amnesty International released a report which detailed human rights abuses committed by the Nigerian military and some other in the country in the fight against terrorism. And then because of that, the U.S. suspended the sale of some weapons to Nigeria until the human rights issues have been fixed. And this was what pushed Nigeria to buy weapons from Russia. Countries like Russia, countries like Iran, countries like China would sell weapons to state governments in Africa without any clause, without any conditionalities. So this, again, is pushing these countries away from their Western allies, because there is an argument of how do we fight an insurgency considering the human rights issues in the country. So all these things create issues in the country, and they are resulting in the mechanism or a system whereby these countries are looking beyond their Western allies and looking up at building new relationships with more friendly countries, quote and unquote.
So if you had to advise the West or Washington or London or the EU, what should be done to counter this influence not only now of China and Russia, but also of Iran in Africa, and especially in the Sahel region of Africa?
They need to begin to relate with these countries as equals. Because one key thing that we've seen over the years is the lopsided relationship. And sometimes there are this take it or leave it approach when it comes to the West. So for instance, when the U.S. was told to leave, the U.S. military, when they were told to leave last year, there was the statement of one of the senior military rulers saying that they spoke to them in a condescending manner, and they did not respect them during the negotiation. So I think Western countries, the US, the EU, they need to begin to relate with these countries as partners and move away from this bottom-up relationship. We understand the fact that yes, the lopsided relationships as a result of the West providing a lot in aid, but now these countries are looking outward and looking at other allies, and then this is creating further security interest dynamics and uncertainty, especially when it comes to the issue of human rights and how this issue of insurgency is being fought in the region. So there needs to be a different approach when dealing with these countries. And then there is also a need to understand the local dynamics, because a lot of times I think there is a lack of understanding of the local dynamics. the people in the country, the local people, the citizens, they don't care about democracy. They don't care about the type of government they have. What they want is a government that works for them, a government that will allow them to put food on the table for their children, and a government that will protect them. That is all they want. And when people have this government, regardless of the form of government, they will support this government. So we saw that we saw two different pictures in Africa, in African countries, in the last 6 months. We saw people in the last 1 year, we've seen people go out to the street to support military leaders. And at the same time, we have seen people go out to the street to protect democracy in Senegal, because they've seen that democracy works for them and is the best form of government for them. So now the military is in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Mali, in Guinea. They are positioning themselves as the best government for these people, and the people are buying into it. So the Western allies need to also understand these dynamics and act with them on that basis.
Dr. Ajala, very interesting, and we'll definitely catch up on another day on other regions, and especially Nigeria, which you are also a specialist on. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.